Welcome back to the Seth Leibsohn Show. You know, I was just saying about another issue. If you want to will the ends, you have to will the means in our politics. That's an old position of Immanuel Kant's, an old theory of Immanuel Kant's. And what does that mean? It means if you want the results of your conservative philosophy, you have to engage in the activity to get those results. You can't just wish for them, and you can't just do the minimal amount. And we have, in our state, blessedly, the opportunity to elect a game changer for the conservative cause, for really the common sense cause in our state, running in Congressional District 4, in the candidate who used to guest host this show when I was gone, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. He is an incredible change agent, an incredible conservative, an incredibly qualified candidate. And if you want to help change Congress, if you want to help change the trajectory of this country, if you want to shut down the squad and progressivism and have someone take them on with the credibility and the ability and the willingness and desire to do so, you got to get behind Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Welcome back, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Thank you for running for this office.
Thank you, Seth, for your friendship and for having me on. Our country is at the edge, and we have this election to save it, and I don't know if it can be saved if we don't put conservatives back in office, and folks like Greg Stanton need to be retired. We need effective candidates that can not only, talk the talk, but walk the walk, and I can do that. I believe that this election is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for conservatives to shift what's happening in our country, and especially in our border and our security.
Well, God bless you for saying it. You know, when I read, Zuhdi, yesterday, I think it was, the news of 8 Tajikistan operatives on the ISIS watch list, on our ISIS watch list, that were arrested having come here through the border illegally, I knew I wanted to talk to you because you have been sounding this alarm for years now that the problem with our border has many facets, but the one we cannot forget first and foremost among them is the threat of terrorism being brought. We used to say we'll fight them over there so we don't have to fight them over here. We're going to now have to fight them over here with this border policy, Zuhdi.
Exactly, and this is the issue, is that the Biden administration, rubber stamped by the likes of Greg Stanton, are completely suicidal when it comes to these things. And ICE now has proven with these 8 individuals that were found in New York, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and they happen to be Tajik nationals that are devotees of ISIS. And something you and I have talked about, these folks were quote-unquote vetted.
Yeah.
These are individuals. Yeah. Now, this shows you how useless the vetting is.
One of them used the CBP app. At least one of them used Joe Biden's CBP app.
Exactly. Is that the vetting process, all it does is cross-match terror membership with other countries' databases, which are often useless from 70% of the world that lives under dictatorships anyway. And somehow that becomes a vetting mechanism. And ultimately, this is why we need adults in Washington, folks that have, I have been preaching to Washington many times about the fact that we need to have a policy that demands, and this is part of my 8-point plan, demands that people get asylum just like my parents did before they come into the U.S., not after. That we vet them before, and we look at ideological vetting just like we did in the Cold War.
No one's talking about that but you, and I love you for it, and I love that you're doing it. Ideological vetting as well, right? What do you think about this country? What do you think about this place, right?
Exactly. Is that it's about social contract. It's about, do they believe Sharia is the primary legal system or Western liberal democracy? And these are things that make a difference. And the left will go kicking and screaming, but now they've created a cauldron of radicalism, not only from people born here, as we saw in universities, but people on visa that are openly advancing ideas of our enemies, of Hamas, of terror groups, of Khomeini in Iran. And ultimately, we do nothing about it. We should be deporting folks that support material support of terrorism and espouse verbiage that are here by privilege on visa, and let alone those pouring through our border that now we know of 8 of them. And think of the odds of how much our country is at risk, as millions have been pouring in the last 3 years, somewhere between 10 and 15 million that we know of, and how many we've missed because there's no ideological vetting, and somehow we're supposed to give them asylum after they get here, which is beyond suicidal.
Do you have time for one more segment? This was a short one. I'll let you go if you need to, but if you have time.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Zuhdi Jasser is our guest, candidate for Congress, game-changing candidate for Congress. Go to his website and help him out, even if you don't live in CD4. You know, congressmen represent districts, but they make laws for the whole country. Go to Z4AZ.com, Z4AZ.com, and help him out. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Seth Leibsohn Show. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is our guest. He's a congressional candidate for CD4 here in Arizona, in the East Valley. And I have to tell you, folks, this is, as I said in the previous segment, a true game-changing candidate. He has been obviously a friend of this community for over 20 years. He's been a friend of this show for many, many years, not only as a guest host, but during COVID. He advocated heavily against the shutdowns and the lockdowns. He was here every Friday talking us through all the science that was being thrown our way and all the non-science nonsense that was being thrown our way. Help this guy. Go to his website, Z4AZ.com. Do something good for your country. You don't have to max out. If you can't max out, I get it. But if you can give if everyone in this audience gave $10 to Zuhdi Jasser's campaign, he'd have everything and he could stop all fundraising. Just go to his website. Give $5 or $10 if you can. If you know someone else who might be able to do it, just have them do it. If we can have everyone in the audience give $5 or $10, if you can give more, great. We're done. Fundraising. He's done fundraising. He makes no money off this. I make no money off this. This is a pure fight for freedom and country. Dr. Jasser, thanks for being with us. Thanks for running for office. We were talking about Z4AZ.com, the website. We were talking about immigration, illegal immigration. And I was reading a piece in the Washington Post earlier today, Zuhdi, and from a liberal historian saying Donald Trump might, if elected, expel and deport millions of illegal immigrants. And he made this as if this was a self-executing point. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, why are there millions of illegal aliens that might need to be deported? I mean, there's a policy that brought this here, Zuhdi, right? This should not be. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime, right?
Yep. And this is the time to do it because what happens is, they earn for a decade, it becomes much more difficult versus This is a no-brainer. 10 to 15 million came in the last 3 years, and those are Biden's illegals. And as per my website and web plan, 8-point plan, we can easily deport Biden's illegals, and it can be done. And that's why voters have a clear choice in our district. I mean, I'm not only the only guy with a prescription. As a doctor here, I know how to write prescriptions. There's a clear script of 8 points that we do. Seal the border. We reclaim congressional authority. And we intensify vetting. We make them do asylum outside. We increase self-deportation by just simply enforcing our laws. And we call out people like Greg Stanton that call for sanctuary cities and end that. So at the end of the day, you look at my opponents, not only did, Kelly Cooper lose by 13 points to Greg Stanton in the last election, which it's a split district, it's a swing district, that should just not be happening for our conservative movement. No. He has on his website verbiage that really looks like the Democratic Party verbiage, where he calls for the broken system to get the migrants out that must live out of the shadows and no longer in the shadows.
Does anyone really think they live in the shadows? My God, who... They're announcing, they're proud, they're here. Go to a college campus, go down my street, go down any street in Phoenix. They're not hiding. They're not in the shadows.
Exactly. So, I think at the end of the day, the reason some candidates lose elections, as Kelly did last time, is because they're too squishy. Voters don't know what they stand for. Voters want clarity. And in order for President Trump to be able to enact many of these things to seal the border, if you look today, all of a sudden Senator Lankford was talking about, the threat of ISIS, etc. Well, his so-called bipartisan plan wasn't bipartisan. It was him and Sinema, and that was it. It wasn't bipartisan.
Right.
They said his plan, Lankford's plan, called for allowing 5,000 in a day. That's not bipartisan. And in one of the debates, Cooper was trying to tell folks that he would, support that plan. So this is the clarity that we need, where voters they're tired of the border. They're tired of fentanyl and trafficking and the destruction. The use of the resources tied to the border, Seth, is our economy. We've been dumping billions upon billions to folks that aren't paying taxes, that are destroying our legal system because of the criminality and other aspects. And it's for no reason other than simply globalized far-left extremism that wants to destroy what it means to be American. And we can flip this seat and begin to give the House a better majority so that we can enact the rules that we need to save this country.
Well, bless you for saying it. And, you do have a great 8-point plan. Z4AZ.com. It's common sense. I think in a better day, even Democrats could accept and adopt most of it, quite frankly. You have audio of Democrats saying these kinds of things 15 years ago before Barack Obama became president. But I love this part. It's in your point 3 about vetting for ideology. We touched on it a minute ago. I want to be specific about this. And I think you should, not you, Zuhdi, I think listeners in this audience should ask their congressional candidates, do you agree that we need to vet against anti-American ideologies in our immigration system? Do you believe that fascists and members of the Muslim Brotherhood or members of the Ba'ath Party in Syria or members of ISIS or Al-Qaeda or Hezbollah or Hamas or people who support them should be given American citizenship? Ask that question. What's so hard about that question? I call it common sense, Zuhdi. You're the only one I know talking about it.
And this is why we need people that can make the sale, that can articulate what it means to be vetted. I mean, one of the founding fathers that's my hero is Benjamin Rush, a physician, and he had a quote that said, patriotism is as much a virtue as justice and is as necessary for the support of societies as natural affection is for the support of families. If people are going to come to this country, for gosh sake, we need to vet whether they're going to be patriotic, whether are they coming here to destroy our country, or are they going to be patriotic like my parents taught me to be when I was raised in a small town in Wisconsin.
Amen. Amen. And, of course, the 8-point plan is accessible, as I say, at your website, Z4AZ.com. There's so much we could talk about. There's so much in the news. But I knew when I read about these 8, this is the kind of thing you've been talking about for years. You're saying this is going to happen. You're going to find Al-Qaeda and ISIS members coming across that border, and here we have them. And they came across this border under a program that Joe Biden created to make it easier to come across this border. Why wouldn't ISIS take advantage of that? Well, of course they have, and thank God we got them. Thank God we got them before another 9/11 or another Fort Hood. Go ahead, Zuhdi. Last word to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, and when President Trump was inappropriately attacked for restricting flow from 7 countries that happened to be Muslim majority, I was able on national media and platforms I have to neutralize the effect of the radicals like Tlaib and Ilhan Omar to say it was a quote-unquote Muslim ban. These Tajiks who came in, again, if I was in the House, I'd be able to quickly get us back on the page of what's important to this country and not let them gaslight us with identity politics.
God bless you, Zuhdi Jasser. Folks, again, Z4AZ.com. You may not live in CD4. That's fine. You don't have to live in CD4 to help him. He makes laws. He will pass laws. He will debate laws and policies for the whole country. We're partly federal, partly national, as another founder put it, James Madison. So help him out. If you can give 5, give 5. If you know someone who can give more, ask them to give more. If you can give 10, give 10. Z4AZ.com. Put this doctor in the House of Representatives. Thank you, Zuhdi. God bless you.
God bless you. Thanks, Seth.
Thanks, brother.